I have some relatives from North Korea. This is part 9 of my ex try to swap me, and now I'm going to give you a little more backstory. So one interesting thing about my family history is that I'm not just Japanese. I actually discovered that I have some Korean heritage, and I didn't discover this until I was basically an adult. I went my whole life without knowing this, and I also found out as an adult that I have at least a couple family members, one of them being a direct family member that is from North Korea. I was literally almost middle-aged when I found this out, but now it's beginning to make sense to you, right? Why all this stuff is happening to me. Now, this direct family member, I'm not going to say who it is, but they actually told me that they've never been to North Korea, they've never visited there, never traveled there, never went there in their lives. But the story goes that his grandmother fled with her son from North Korea to Japan. You see, this family member of mine, even though he has never been to North Korea, he previously had a North Korean travel document instead of a passport. And the reason for that is because once upon a time, North Korea was not issuing passports to their citizens. They were actually issuing travel documents only. And this relative happened to be born in a country where they do not automatically give you birthright citizenship after you were born. So because of that, he did not get citizenship from this country and instead had a North Korean travel document. By the way, when this relative happened to travel all over the world and backpack across many different countries, this person would get stopped pretty much at every single border checkpoint and get interrogated and interviewed for hours. And my ex knew all this. He knew all this because I told him all this. My family history is pretty interesting, by the way. Apparently, I have a grandfather who was somewhat famous. I also have an aunt who disappeared in the 70s in San Francisco, and I largely suspect that she may have been a victim of the Zodiac Killer, because the Zodiac Killer was active in San Francisco during that time. I have some relatives from North Korea, some who fled from North Korea, and I even have some relatives that were shipped back to North Korea when Japan was sending back people to the country. These family members that ended up back there, they would end up writing my other family members, asking them to please send money, watches, jewelry, anything that they could find their way. So I don't think that they are living good lives. But anyways, that's like a whole different story. Like, we're gonna get derailed and off topic. I'm gonna make a whole separate video about that. Now, another thing is that I actually told my ex this. My ex knows this. He knows this. And I even told him that when this family member was studying at grad school at a university, his classmates and colleagues would frequently joke with him, and they would call him a North Korean spy. But this was obviously, clearly just a stupid joke. This person's not a spy, never been to the country, in fact, can't even speak Korean. But knowing my ex and the multitude of lies that he has told me, for example, photoshopping a fucking fake document claiming that he was going to be terminated when he wasn't, lying to me about who some of his friends are, I discovered that this was actually a dealer that he met off Craigslist. So knowing all the bullshit lies that he has told me, this guy would definitely be the kind of guy who would twist this type of joke around. He would twist this fact around and be like, you know, to try to report me, and possibly say that, hey, this girl has a family member who's a spy, and therefore by association she could be one too. And the reason why I say he would do something like this is because there was an incident back in January 2025 where he did just this. You see, my ex and I, we didn't have just one breakup, we actually had two breakups. The first being between December 2024 through March 2025, and our second and very last one being at the end of May 2025. So before our first breakup in December 2024, for pretty much all of 2024, I was actually managing his content creator accounts, and he was paying me a small amount of money in exchange for doing so. Here is the proof, by the way. You can clearly see text messages between us talking about this, and also I have Venmo and Zelle transactions from him. Now, in 2024, I actually discovered that he was being unfaithful, which I don't even know why he would do that, because we were actually in a non-monogamous relationship, so it's like, why would you lie in this kind of situation? And it's like, if you lie in this kind of situation, it's like you are definitely not capable of being honest in any relationship. But that's besides the point. I'm gonna get back to the story. So basically, I felt like he committed a form of fraud because he had lied to me and he had deceived me, and through that deception, I ended up accepting a much lower pay rate than what I would have agreed to. Naturally, I was pissed off about this. So after our breakup happened in December 2024, I just went into his accounts and I pretty much deleted every single post that I had ever made, and I deleted some of his other accounts too. After what he pulled, I definitely felt like he deserved it 100%. If you disagree with me, feel free to chime below. However, this guy then went around telling all his friends that I hacked into his shit, when I didn't hack into shit. He actually gave me the passwords to his own accounts. But now you're beginning to see where this is going, right? The wheels are turning in your head. You're kind of seeing where this is leading up to. Like, he actually was planning this. So he's spinning this story that I'm affiliated with North Korea, and that I'm also an expert hacker. I also had an incident with him where during our breakup between December to March 2025, he was going around telling people that I was stalking him, when this was not true, even in the slightest. You see, during our breakup, he was extremely uncooperative and would not sign any release forms. I needed him to sign 2 release forms specifically, and he would not sign them. He was very uncooperative. Well, it just so happens that I happen to have an eyelash lady who I really like to go to, who happens to be very, very close to where he lives. So every 3 weeks, I went to go get my lashes done, and then I would drop by his house to try to get these release forms signed, because it was on the way. However, each and every single time I happened to show up to his place, he would not answer the door. And there were at least 1 or 2 times I could clearly see the lights are on, there's a plate of food on the table, and his bicycle's in there and his car's in there. So he's clearly inside, he's just deliberately not answering the door. Well, I discovered later, around April 2025, after we had gotten back together because he had called me asking for me back, I got suspicious of him. I went through his phone, and among some of the messages that I found contained messages claiming that he was so scared of me because I was stalking him and kept showing up at his house. But you kind of see where this is going, right? Like, he's actually like planning this. He's planning all of this in advance. Like, this man knew what I wanted. He knew that I didn't want to get back together with him. He knew that I was not asking for him back, but he deliberately hid from me. He deliberately hid from me and acted scared and deliberately didn't open the door. So that way I would have to keep coming back. And then he could try to completely twist the story around and make it seem like I was stalking him or I was coming after him. And here's the proof. I actually found a note that I had written out. And you could clearly see when this is timestamped. So you can clearly see in this note, I'm saying, I promise to leave you alone after this. All I want are these fucking release forms. And you know how I know he did this is because he has done this to other women too. So there is an MMA fighter who he was previously affiliated with. And he claimed this MMA fighter was completely obsessed with him and wanted to be with him so bad. Well, I actually tracked down this MMA fighter. She's a public figure, so she was very easy to track down. I sent her a message in June 2025. Now, once I got the real story from her, it was a completely different story from what he gave to me. So the story that he gave to me is that she was completely obsessed with him, and they were together for 6 months, which was not true at all. I spoke to her, and she said they only hung around for like 1 month, and then she got creeped out by him, so she did not want to see him anymore. She got a really weird, creepy feeling from him, which she is spot on, by the way. Her intuitions are very good. I'm gonna talk later about all the weird, creepy shit he said or done, okay? That's a whole separate video. We're gonna talk about that in another video. Don't worry about it. Oh yes, I forgot to add, after we broke up, this man refused to give me my house keys back. Refused to give them back. Would not give them back. I kept asking for them and asking for them and asking for them, and he would not give me my house keys back. So, in retaliation, I sent him a couple glitter bombs as a prank. This man then completely spun that story around and claimed that I was so crazy for sending these glitter bombs. And he's doing all this while conveniently omitting the fact that he refused to give me my house keys back. I had to get the locks changed because of him. So based on all those different things, this is what I suspect happened. In June 2025, I hired this private investigator. This private investigator then reaches out to my ex. My ex then tells him that I'm affiliated with North Korea, that one of my relatives is a spy, that I'm an expert hacker working for the government, and I'm sure he also added that I'm completely insane about him, obsessed about him, and he doesn't know how to get rid of me. And I'm sure he also added that I'm stalking him, that I'm obsessed with him, and that I'm dangerous. I mean, think about it though, this actually shows premeditation. He was always planning on doing this. You see all these little steps that he's taking? Like, it actually takes premeditation to deliberately refuse and plan to not open the door so you don't sign these release forms, to get a person to keep coming, so that way you can spin this story around and claim that this person's coming after you, right? They're so dangerous. They're obsessed with you, they're crazy about you, right? And you know, it's dawned on me that pretty much everything that my ex says or accuses other people of, I realize it's actually projection. For example, he claims that every single woman that he's ever dated or been romantically affiliated with is crazy. That's not a coincidence. Like, what are the odds of every single woman that you were with being crazy? That's actually statistically extremely unlikely. Another example is how he claims that I was the one stalking him, when in reality he was the one stalking me. Remember how I showed you in part 1 that an Android 15 accessed my apartment complex during the time that I was not at home? This android was most likely his. By the way, my boss and coworkers believe that he is the #1 suspect in all of this stalking and harassment. Come to think of it, so do my parents and family. Pretty much everybody around me think that he is the #1 suspect. Here's another projection. He frequently would call his mom and his sister a chronic liar. When really it's him. He's the one who's a chronic liar. So obviously this is just projection. Back in 2023, I also had another incident with him. You see, I went through a 1-month phase where I was drinking every couple of days, and I was also smoking cigarettes every couple of days. This man was then going around and telling people that I had addiction problems. And I didn't find out until almost 2 years later that he was actually buying substances off the black market. Also, I'm fairly certain that that is considered to be a violation of his security clearance. This man does have security clearance, I'd like to add that. And I would like to add that this man was prescribed a Schedule II medication for ADHD when he doesn't have a single one of the symptoms. Now, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but I do actually have ADHD. And I have every single one of the symptoms. And I know this guy very, very, very well. And he has absolutely none of the symptoms. You see, ADHD people, they tend to multitask. They can't sit still. They do multiple things at a time. This guy is not that. And I've seen this guy both on and off his medication. Like, he actually stopped taking his medication in January 2025, which I thought was peculiar. I thought it was peculiar because I was like, well, wonder why he just suddenly stopped after being on it for 10 years. So again, this shows like premeditation, right? He's trying to stop doing anything that might come back to him before taking all these steps to plan this, right? People with ADHD tend to be disorganized. They tend to be late. They tend to have trouble sleeping. This guy is not that at all. This guy has a very regular schedule. Always sleeps at the same time. Always wakes up at the same time. Can focus on one thing and just do that one thing. He's not doing multiple things at a time. He doesn't get distracted easily. He's none of those things. He has actually not even one of the symptoms. This man then later confessed to me that he was actually the one with addiction problems. That he was actually secretly taking over a gram a day of his Schedule II medication. A gram a day, which is actually a lethal dose for a normal person. So that actually shows that he had been abusing his medication for quite some time to get a tolerance to that level, right? Yet this man was spinning the story, claiming that I was the one with addiction problems, when actually this whole time it was him. It's not just me, by the way. He would call his own mother and sister these things too. Pretty much every single woman, by the way, who's ever been involved in his life, now that I think about it. So you see where this is going, right? Pretty much every single thing that he accuses other women of being is actually projection on his end. For example, how he claims they're stalkers, how they're crazy, how they're addicts, how they're chronic liars, when actually this whole time it's him. So the fact that he was trying to frame me for something along the lines of espionage or treason, now that's got the wheels turning in my head, you know? Because see, here's the thing. My ex previously, actually he currently works in this industry. He works in an industry where countries like North Korea, China, Russia, they would be very, very interested to know what he's doing. And they would actually pay quite a bit of money to get insider information about it. Matter of fact, my ex had a PhD and previously worked for one of the big 5 top national security companies. You see, I found it highly suspicious when after maybe only 1 year of dating, I found out that he had 6 figures in his savings and retirement account.
You gotta realize I've worked less than 2 years in the real world, and I went from less than 10 grand to over 100 grand saved, so it's not too bad, but yeah, I mean, also I'm a W-2 and I'm taxed. Like, I get it, my income is, you know, what is it? Call it one for last year, 140, and then some bonuses, so 145, but after my contributions and then my taxes, it's like take home was 96,000 roughly.
Okay, I didn't realize you have like 6 figures in your account, because you seem to be surprised at the amount that I had in my account, which made me think that you had way less.
We talked about this last time I saw you. I have my money in my, you know, checkings and savings. I have money in my 401k where most of my money is, and I have money in that investment account.
And for me, this math wasn't adding up, because he had just finished graduating with his doctorate maybe a year before that. So he had only been working maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years tops, like 1.5 years tops. And I know how much this man makes. I know how much rent he pays. The math ain't mathing. He clearly did not save all of that up on his own. So this begs the question, where did he get this money? Where did it come from? Remember how I showed you in part 7 how my work computer was hacked into and I was being framed to make it look like I was sending files to foreign nations? And you can clearly tell that these are not official folders because some of them don't even make any sense. One of them oddly says Antarctica, and another one oddly says Indian. And for some reason, some of them are continent names while others are country names. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. So this is clearly not an official folder. So now I wonder if it was actually him this whole time. This whole time, it most likely was him who was sending documents from his work to foreign nations. And that would actually explain how he got that extra money into his accounts. It would also explain where he learned how to put his phone in airplane mode. Because I noticed every now and then when he was at my house or when I was at his house, his phone would be on airplane mode. And I'd be like, why are you putting your phone on airplane mode? So he actually has a habit of doing this. And it makes me wonder, where did he learn this from? My ex also happens to love to go fishing, and he claims to go once or twice a month. And if you think about it, this would actually be the perfect cover. Because when you go out to fish, you're out at sea. And when you're out at sea, your Wi-Fi, your reception, your cellular data does not work. So it's basically like his phone would be in airplane mode the whole time. And even if somebody were to plant a microphone or a camera on his boat, it would be very hard to hear outside with the waves, especially on a windy day. If you think about it, it is actually the perfect cover for meeting people and transmitting information that way. Now, I might be reading too deeply into things. It might just be that he actually goes fishing. But in the event that it's not, this means I just blew his cover. Well, now that I've told you all this information, you start to see how and why I was being targeted by the government, right? Once you put together the North Korean history, once you put together how my ex was telling everybody I was an expert hacker, right? The puzzle pieces begin to start falling into place. And obviously this fake termination document that he sent to me, this also shows a level of foresight and planning, premeditation. This guy planned this. Like, why else would he send me a fake document? And you can clearly tell this is fake because it says the words Exhibit C at the top and template date on the bottom left. Now, the word exhibit means this was placed in a courtroom as evidence. So this is clearly not a real termination contract. So this means he found one on the internet, altered it, and then sent it to me. And I noticed that this man just happens to be really good with Photoshop. And prior to meeting me, he allegedly was not into content creation, but that's what he told me, which I guess was also a lie. But it just makes you wonder, where did you learn your Photoshop skills from, right? Because you don't... See, to do content creation, you don't really have to know Photoshop. I don't know how to Photoshop. I've never had to do it. If I need to, like, cover up a pimple or something, there's literally apps out there where you can just put your finger on it and the blemish disappears. There's literally no need anymore to need to know how to Photoshop, unless you're a pro photographer or a pro in the industry, which I wouldn't really call myself that. So it really just begs the question. It's like, where did he learn his Photoshop skills from, and why? You know, has he been selling information about his workplace, but like altering it so that he doesn't get in trouble? Like, I really don't know. That's a mystery I've yet to solve. I mean, just think about it though. Like, if a guy goes to that extent to spread the bullshit, that amount of bullshit with his lies, that man is definitely capable of anything. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. This man's not a pro photographer. He's not a pro videographer. If he was just a small-time content creator, there's really no need for him to be using Photoshop. This actually shows that he clearly edits and creates fraudulent documents and photos to send them to other people. And if he's sending these to companies or to entities in exchange for pay, he could also be committing a form of fraud. So if you ever receive any documents, photos, anything from this man, I strongly encourage you to read it closely and inspect it closely. Well, you can clearly see I went to a website called PimEyes, input his photo in there, his public Instagram photo, and uploaded it, and a bunch of searches come up, but the one that particularly intrigued me was the one from June 2023. Now, this was actually the month that we had met, and I had not even posted him on my pages yet, so this had nothing to do with me. And here's how you know everything that I'm saying about my ex is true. Because if it were false, he would actually have a reason to sue me for slander. You see, it's only slander if it's false. If it's true, then it's not considered slander. But quite honestly, I wish he would sue me. I really do. I wish he would fucking sue me. Because then I would get the opportunity to call him in for a deposition. And I would get to ask him all these questions, grill him for every single lie that he's ever told, and pretty much his whole entire image would be crumbled apart before his eyes. So if you're my ex and you're watching this, please come and file a lawsuit against me. I fucking dare you.